Okay, so this is for our Kowanyama friends and family. It was so great to see a lot of you when we were up there a couple of weeks ago. Uncle Ron and I were just, really happy to catch up with everyone. We really appreciated the people who came to the talk we had about what we're going to be doing in Ukraine. A lot of you came up afterwards and said you weren't able to make it and you were really sad that you'd missed out, and we're really keen to hear about it. So I did promise to make a recording. Sorry it's taken me a while, but finally here it is. And you can check it out and share it too. So thank you so much for your interest. Thank you for caring about us, about Ukraine. And here we go. Uncle Ron just wants to say a few words first, and then I'll talk to you a little bit as well.
So it was 26 years ago that Lara first went to work in Cowie. Recently she was doing health checks on kids whose mum she saw on ultrasounds before they were even born. So as a lot of you know, Cowie has been a big part of our lives for the last 25 years. But with the last two Cowie boys leaving our home, we now have an empty nest in our house for the first time in 20 years. Without the boys, I was able to go with Lara on a last trip to Ukraine. Well, not her last trip, but her last big trip to Ukraine. We both went there for 2 months. That was towards the end of last year. And now we're going again for 5 months soon. So yes, as a lot of people kept asking me when I was up in Kowanyama, we are going to Ukraine again. Now I know many of you worry about this, but and I won't lie, of course it can be dangerous, but please don't worry, we won't be worrying. It's a terrible thing to say, but we're all going to die one day, and so don't be sad if we die, just be happy because we're doing stuff that we want to do. Yeah, and we do. We really do want to do it. We're not doing it because we're being told to or anything. We're doing it because we want to. Yeah, being a believer in Jesus, following him, it's not about following commands or orders, but it's about following our heart. And that's not the old heart of stone, but the new heart that we have in our Lord Jesus. So yeah, as you know, our hearts have been with you, Cowie mob, for the last 25 years or so. We have more family in Kowanyama than anywhere really, and it will always hold a special place in our hearts and minds. So yeah, but with the last boys leaving, we just find our hearts being led to help the people of Ukraine, and as they're standing against this terrible invasion of their country. Doors have been open that have led, especially Lara, to Ukraine, and it really is a blessing for us to be able to go to Ukraine and show that love to one another and stand against the evil and injustice, and just to help the oppressed people, just all that they're going through, all the trials, terrible things. And don't forget, we can, no matter where we are, we can all do that wherever we are. So you don't have to go to Ukraine to do that. But yeah, Ukrainians they're really wonderful people. I was so fully impressed by their toughness and their love, and just how they went about standing against this invasion of their land. And I'm really proud of Lara for wanting to help the Ukrainians. And I'm proud of her for all the love she has shown to Kowanyama. As many of you Kowanyama are like family to us, and so I hope you can get an idea of some of what we are going to be, what we've done and what we're going to be doing over there in Ukraine from Lara's talk, which is coming up after this. So, yeah, many of you have my phone number. Um, I'm only contactable through WhatsApp. So, yeah, please keep in touch and message me for a yarn if you ever want to. I'd love to hear from you.
So, just a bit of background. So, here's where Ukraine is. It's, over in Europe, Eastern Europe. You can see it's one of the bigger countries in Europe, but nowhere near as big as Russia. And for those who don't know, like in 2014, Russia came and sort of took some of their land, and then, had been fighting on a smaller scale in some of those parts since then. And then in February 2022, they launched a full-scale invasion to try and take over the whole of Ukraine, which of course they haven't been able to do yet. But since then, they've been fighting in what's the biggest full-scale war since World War II. Now, this is not new for Ukraine. Russia has been stealing their land and occupying them for many centuries. But finally, in 1991, they got their independence and were independent and had all their land back until 2014, and Russia's trying to steal it again. So this is a cemetery in one of the cities that I'd visited when I first went there, and then when I went back, the number of graves had quadrupled. Each one of those flags indicates someone who's died in the war. And then below is memorial flags in the capital city. Each flag is in memorial of someone who's died in the war, and it just goes for, you just can walk for meters and meters and hundreds of meters, and there's just these tens of hundreds of thousands of flags. And what really hit me was how many Australian and New Zealand names were among the flags now. And these are real people, many from our own region, who've given their lives defending Ukraine because they see it's standing up against evil. Because when Russia invades, and they've been doing this, they do some terrible things. There's been stories of mass graves, children being raped and women tortured, and executions, and horrific, terrible things. So a lot of people see how it's the right thing to do to defend their freedom. So even Aboriginal people, there's quite a few Indigenous people there, Aboriginal people from Australia, Māori from New Zealand, who are defending Ukraine. Now, when you go over there, some parts of the country actually seem quite normal. You can go to some parts and just feel like you're in any other beautiful European city. You can go to the cafe, the shop, go to the park. And, only every now and then is there like a missile alert or something. But as you go further east, obviously there's more destruction, more signs that they're at war, the trenches, hideouts, checkpoints. And these things here are called dragon's teeth. So they're to stop tanks getting through. So just a little bit about daily life for some in Ukraine. So in this region, in Kharkiv region that we went to, there were air raid alerts, these alarms telling you to go to shelter, sometimes 10 times a day or night. And, imagine trying to live normally with that constant threat. I took this photo walking through a playground with a couple of doctors we were working with and their little kids, and the air raid alert was going off when I took this photo, and the children in the playground behind me just kept playing. They were so frequent that they didn't even bother to respond anymore. But just thinking about the fact that big Shahed drones and bombs could be headed for areas where children are playing, knowing that not long before this, there had been some playgrounds hit with missiles and children killed, that was really hard. And you have things like, Google Maps not working when the air raid alerts go off because the jammers are trying to disrupt the signal, so missiles can't find their way. So you couldn't order taxis, you can't, find your way around. We got lost a couple of times. And we stayed with this doctor couple near the Russian border, and we were sleeping in the room of their sister's children. They they'd had to go away because the father had gone to war. And you could see the tape on the windows. For us, we do that for cyclones. For them, it's for bomb blasts. And looking through the windows, the school where the children used to go, but they can't go to school now. A lot of the schools, in fact, all the schools in that region have been closed. They've either been bombed or they don't have enough shelters, and it's too much of a risk because Russia often bombs schools. So just to give you a picture, just before I did this talk, I had just picked out the week before to show you, and I just picked 3 towns where I knew people, and looked at what happened in that week. And you can see, lots of people killed, lots of people injured, and this is happening every day. In fact, then the next day I looked at just what happened in one day, and 16 killed, 121 wounded in one day. That's kind of like one terrorist attack that would make the news all over the world, if it happened here. But if in Ukraine, that's happening pretty much every night for years and years. So you can just imagine what it's like for people there, and the amount of injuries and health problems and grief. It's just, horrific. So when I was walking through one of the cities, Dnipro, I was staying with a friend, and we just walked around the corner from where he lived, and we walked past this building, and there was this big pile of teddy bears. I wouldn't have really worked out what was going on, but my friend pulled out his phone and he showed me the news story of when this building had been hit by a Shahed drone, and told me that a few children had been killed, which is why there's now this teddy bear memorial to the children. And they'd just, cut off that part of the building, concreted it over, and just, keep moving on. But there's a memorial to these kids. And this here is little baby Timothy with his mum Anna. His dad is a pastor. And this is the drone strike in May 2024 that killed mum Anna and baby Timothy. So they were in the same block of apartments as my friend. She's a doctor who does mobile clinics, and she runs a women's crisis centre. And Anna was one of her best friends from her church. I was staying with this friend, and it was the 1-year anniversary of the attack. So as we walked past, I was able to take a photo of the toys that had been left there in memory of Timothy. And again, I know a lot of this stuff never makes the news back home. These are all places I've been to. And, you can see here, though, that reports of hitting on a hospital, hitting ambulances. The one in the middle is a children's hospital. And the Russians were actually celebrating that they'd hit this big children's hospital. So this is the family of this is the 2 doctors I was talking about, and their 2 little kids who live in that very dangerous region. And I don't think people realise what these health workers have to go through. So this is their team that I'd worked with in the Far East. They volunteer their time, so weekends, nights, whatever they do, and extra stuff doing mobile clinics, palliative care, caring for people dying of cancer and things like that. They help refugees who've had to run away from other villages to their village because their houses have been bombed. And now this couple themselves are refugees. So just the week before we came to Kowanyama, they had to leave their village, the home that I had stayed in with them, because there'd been massive bombing of 30 of these huge Shahed drones in just 2 days. So just one week before, one had hit in their street and killed a childhood friend and her 10-year-old son. And the week before that, down the road, a father and 3 babies were killed, and a pregnant mother had been injured and burned. But this couple have just moved out of town into another family member's house, and they still go back in every day for work, just not to sleep. So they're still, serving people. They could have run away, but they didn't. And one of the generous people who donate money to us sent some money to buy some curtains for their mobile clinics, some dividers, and you can see them here. And just the day after he picked them up, Dr. McCullough messaged me and said that the post office where they'd come to had been bombed and burned down. And this is one of the teams that we'll be working with and supporting when we go back. And this is just pictures of their town that they sent me, showing what some of the bombing damage that had happened in their streets, town I'd been to. So yeah, their town. So I mentioned, we've been doing a lot of mobile clinics where we go to them and do clinics, often in old buildings or ones that have been damaged by bombs or have been previously in fighting. Sometimes there's no power and it's freezing cold. But if you don't go and do this, these people don't have access to a doctor. And you guys, you know how important it is to have someone come and care for you and provide you some doctor care. And, some of the places we had to have military sitting outside with drone jammers to make sure that drones didn't target our clinics because that's what they do. But, the patients are just so grateful. A lot of the times they just wanted to give us a hug. They're just really thankful that we had come all that way to help them. Really appreciative. And sometimes we'd have to stay in, church basements to stay safe, or, just where you went, there'd be evidence of damage from previous fighting or where they'd been occupied. Sometimes there were even rockets in the road. One old lady in one of these clinics had arthritis in her knees, and I said, well, are you riding your bike? Because that can help. And she said, no, I can't. My bike's wrecked from riding over all the bits of bombs and that in the road. It had wrecked her bike. And, we meet so many lovely and amazing people, so many people that are just volunteering their time, Ukrainians who are just going through so much themselves, but they're still caring and helping. Really, really inspiring. We one of the clinics, we had these volunteers from the church who were cooking lunch for us, for the mobile clinic volunteers, and, serving us all day, making sure we had drinks. And then at the end of the clinic, we went to drop off one of her pots back to her house, and it was then that we realised she actually didn't have a house, and her house had been bombed as well, but yet she was there serving and helping us. And, so many terrible things. One clinic, a soldier showed me photos on his phone of chemical weapons that had been dropped from drones, and that he said some of his guys had gone to hospital because of the chemicals, but he said they were lucky because only one of the 4 canisters had released. This lady here, she's joined the army, not because she wants to fight or anything, she's just helping with some things, but just because her husband and son have been called to fight and she wanted to support them. Another lady came for medical care, some medical thing, and I could just see she was very upset. So I said, what's wrong? And she broke down and told me that her son had just been killed. And we ended up hugging and praying together, and she said that made her feel a lot better. And then, there are villages that have got no water because Russia's bombed their dam, the huge dam that supplies water to a huge amount of Ukraine. And so some of these little organisations that we support have to deliver water to these clinics. Sometimes they take food. You go through their yard and it's full of missiles and shells, and their homes have been lost. So, yeah, it's pretty terrible. Now, I don't know if any of you saw that when we were in Ukraine last time, we were on a current affair. I will share this around on Facebook. A few people were asking about it, but I'll just show you the first couple of minutes of it.
Hello, I'm Ali Langdon. Welcome to A Current Affair. Dr. Lara Wieland is a long way from her home in far north Queensland. She's in Ukraine with her husband Ron, volunteering her medical skills as she dodges the escalating daily attacks from across the border. The most recent, a Russian drone strike on a kindergarten in Kharkiv, which she captured for A Current Affair.
Can you believe that? So we're just in the hotel room here. Thankfully, we have a pretty sort of thing. Listen to that. Crap, did you hear that? That hit close by. Ron, where are you? News has just come through on Telegram that a kindergarten was hit. We could hear the sirens going, the ambulances, and there's reports that children have been injured. So, and this is just another day in Ukraine. This is happening every day. This is literally like an hour after the kindergarten was hit in Kharkiv, and the air raid sirens are going off again. Also, the community centre where I was going to be teaching family doctors in a couple of hours was also hit. The ever-expanding military cemetery just in one town. Thousands of flags and graves here, thousands of lives lost, and they're just expanding and building more. There's barely space to walk between them as far as the eye can see. So we just heard an explosion and you can see the smoke rising there. This is Andri's house.
Show Andri.
Yeah, Andri's driving us today. He's a volunteer. Yeah, this is his house. He did nothing to deserve this. That all had to be repaired, yeah. Yeah.
Sì, pullami, pobeta, poco sei.
Staying here. Repairs had been done where a house had been built. And the shell still left there. These kids have never had a skipping rope, so Ron's teaching them how to skip. Kiev was without power last night. Pretty much the whole capital city just went black, and they lost water as well. This is all a consequence of the Russian attacks. They're just really trying to make things miserable for Ukrainians this winter, trying to terrorise them. Just got notifications coming up that there are ballistic missile threats.
Lara Whelan joins me now. Lara, the war feels...
So I won't play all of that. You can watch it when I share it. Yeah, there's more there as well. So we also, we're able to do a lot of education. I'm a medical educator as well, so we're able to teach doctors and students and some of the lecturers. And they're so grateful for that because, in places like Kharkiv, nobody comes to visit them and teach them. So they can't have, guest speakers or, it's very hard for them to get out to conferences and things like that. You can see that they are having to have their lectures in bomb shelters because you see the university's buildings have been hit. You can see all the windows blown out. So it's been really wonderful to be able to help them with that as well. They're just so keen to learn. They want to learn more to help their people. We were able to deliver some life support courses, including to instructors. We're able to upskill them so they can keep teaching up-to-date things. Another doctor from Queensland came with me, and he was helping. He was, teaching all of this, and they were so grateful. And he also brought a lot of equipment we were able to donate to them. So that's another thing we're able to do. And look, just something to understand, sometimes people have a picture in their mind of, soldiers in wars. They're just, hateful people who just want to fight each other. And but this is different. These aren't hardened militia fighting for power or hate or people who want to fight. They're ordinary people in Ukraine. Teachers, shop owners, fathers, grandfathers. When Russia invaded and they saw the terrible things that Russia was doing to people as they came across, so many people just volunteered to defend their families from that horrific evil, from the torture, the rapes, the oppression, the kidnapping of children. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian children have been kidnapped. People have been murdered. And I didn't meet a single person who actually wanted to fight or kill. They said they just want to defend those that they love. And put yourself in their shoes. If someone invaded Australia and you knew they were coming towards Kowanyama and you knew they were, when they came, they were going to do terrible things to you and your children. Wouldn't you do everything to protect your loved ones? I'd say probably a lot of you would volunteer to fight as well, even though you didn't really want to. And here's just one example. So I met Andri on my first trip, and it was actually with a little church group who was running a holiday program for kids in a village that had been bombed and a lot of them had lost their homes. It was a great holiday program. In fact, it reminded me a lot of the programs we used to do in Kowanyama. Some of you would remember that. And he was a lovely young man who was just volunteering, working with the kids. He spoke good English, so he was my translator. And we got to know each other quite well and stayed in touch. And so a little while ago, he messaged me to say, I've volunteered to join the army as a combat medic to help save lives. And sadly, a week later, he then sent me a message to say he was in hospital. He'd lost a leg and the other one had been shattered. And, he was just a lovely young man who'd been helping kids. And then this is what's happening because they've been invaded. And he needs lots of care now. He's now got an artificial leg, doing lots of rehabilitation. And probably the worst thing for him, actually, he said, was that when he was in hospital, he found out that his brother had been killed in the war and he wasn't able to get to his funeral. So the people that we work with in Ukraine, different organisations, in particular the Christian Medical Association of Ukraine, do lots of things. So they have a big warehouse that ships out medicines and equipment, ambulances, medic packs all over the country. They do have lots of other projects, burn care, rehabilitation centres. So lots of things they're doing to help all of these people who've been injured. And then other little organisations, as I mentioned, help, taking water and food out to the villages. You see these little kids with their water. The lady on the right, she's a widow who volunteers her time every week to go to these villages. But even her town gets hit by bombs a lot. Her windows were damaged and it was freezing cold winter and the cold was coming in. So we helped her repair her windows so that she could at least keep warm after she volunteers all day and goes through air raid alerts all night. And then the same organisation was able to rebuild one of the bombed homes into like a little community centre for these kids. They're from villages that I've been to where pretty much all of the homes have been damaged by bombs. We were able to buy a gas heater for this community centre because there's no power because Russia had bombed all the power plants in the area and it was a freezing cold winter. So that was life-saving for them. On the left, you can see there's one of the churches that distributes food and toiletries to refugees. So these are all people who've been displaced and lost their homes. Their villages have been bombed. Now, who are we? Well, you guys know better than anyone because we started with you in Kowanyama as OTK. So we're a lot of things are very similar. You can see a lot of our team are people people like Mel and Liz who've been on holiday programs with us for many years in Kowanyama. Phil's been a volunteer on our camps. Isaac's now married to Mel. And obviously, Uncle Ron and I. And so that's just our board. Obviously, Uncle Ron's still heavily involved as well. And just like we did with OTK, we are all volunteers. We've never taken any money for ourselves, never gotten anything for ourselves. Everything has always gone into our work. So for 20 plus years, everything went into Kowanyama, and now everything will go to helping Ukraine. And, we have got a bit of history in Kowanyama, and I couldn't help but share a little bit of this. Obviously, you guys know a lot of this, but it was just nice to reflect on some of the things we've done together with you guys, our family. Kids programs for nearly 15 years, kids camps, youth leadership training, boarding school support, mentoring boarding kids, taking them out on weekends and camping and doing the community demo garden, lots of healthy cooking classes and projects. I know there's lots of people around Kowanyama who know how to cook with moringa now because of things we've done. Built the public toilet, the public picnic and barbecue areas, helped with festivals, supported different groups, donated musical equipment and equipment to play groups and women's groups and things like that, set up that VC project for live streaming the funerals. I could go on, but you guys know. So we have a long history with Kowanyama. And just like, we did in Kowanyama, in Ukraine, we try and make sure that we work together with, local organisations. So people who know where the need is greatest, who understand the culture. And like I said, one of the things we do in Ukraine is these mobile clinics. You know how important it is to be able to see a good doctor and get your medicines. So that's really important. We do that training and education, as I mentioned, and it's really important that we are coming alongside and supporting those people who are working through such tough situations and just strengthening what's already there. And a lot of people think, well, why are you helping doctors? You know, they're rich. But in Ukraine, that's not the case. They're actually very low paid. And in fact, a lot of Ukrainian doctors have to do other jobs just to make ends meet and pay their rent. So life is actually really tough for doctors there. Like I said, we work together with sort of local trusted organisations, with CMA Ukraine, and lots of other little small organisations, little churches and villages and things like that. And the people there are so appreciative. So, you know, here, one of the patients said, "Can't believe that people from so far away in Australia care about us. God bless you all." And, you know, I really love being able to tell people in Ukraine about our work in Kowanyama. We often talk about UMOB. We let them know. They love to hear about it. They love to hear about Aboriginal people. And we tell them that, you know, you guys are some of the most caring, interested people. When I put posts on Facebook, UMOB often say some of the loveliest things, more than a lot of my other friends and contacts. And I make sure I tell them that. So, you know, that reaches out across the other side of the world. And the doctor's really encouraged by us coming to help them as well. And they say things like it gives them strength. So that's encouraging for us to know that we can do some little thing to help them. You know, these people are just incredible. They you know, I met people who were getting bombed at night in the bomb shelters with their kids, and then the next morning getting up to go to work and help people. Okay, so here's the hard part, because as you can see, as we talked about, you know, we've spent 25 years or something doing a lot of stuff for and with Kowanyama, and in that time, as you know, we've never once asked you for anything. That's been really important to us. And so this is a big first, and it's not easy. I know that you guys a lot of you are doing it tough yourselves and often going through really hard times. But I have been encouraged, like I said, by how kind-hearted and how caring and compassionate so many of you have been. I tell a lot of people that you know, Kowanyama Mob really set an example for others, because you guys ask me more about Ukraine than a lot of my friends and contacts. And, you know, you're always saying things like, you know, how you feel sorry for the people over there, that you are praying for them, that you're worrying for us, that, you know, you know, wishing us to stay safe. You're saying how great it is that we're helping those people. You guys in Kowanyama do that more than anyone I know. And it really touches my heart. And I love that caring aspect of you guys. And so this is the first time that Ron and I have ever asked you for anything. And we're asking if you would consider, if you are able, standing with us as we go to Ukraine. We're going for 5 months in August. And as we continue to work with them and support these people who are going through so much, who are standing up to this incredible evil that's trying to take over their country, trying to steal their land, if you would stand with them by donating regularly, and so it only needs to be a little bit so that it can be doable. So we're talking about $10 per pay. That's $5 a week. That's less than a packet of chips. I don't know. I don't buy chips, as you know, in the shops. I don't know how much it costs. It might actually cost more. But, you know, it's $5 a week. So if you scan this QR code, it takes you through to where you can set up a direct debit either through your bank account or through your card, or, you know, whatever you prefer. And, you know, hopefully that's just a little bit that you would hardly notice. If you're smoking, smoke a couple of smokes less a week. Be good for your health too. Sorry, couldn't resist being the doctor. But that little bit of money goes a long way in Ukraine. It helps buy medicines, fuel for clinics. You would actually be helping to save lives. And you know what's the best part? I love the thought that when I'm in Ukraine talking about you guys, I can tell people about these Murray mob in Kowanyama on the other side of the world who don't have a lot themselves, but who are caring for you and standing with you and supporting you, standing up for what's right, standing up to people who are trying to steal your land and your lives. And I would actually enjoy telling my friends in Australia that too, and say, look, Kowanyama mob setting you an example. So, like I said, it's just $20 a month, $10 a pay, $5 a week. You would end up being on our heroes board. We put your initials on this board of all the people who are standing with us and with Ukraine during this time. We've worked out that if we can fill this board, then we will be able to meet all the needs for these clinics and the care that we're doing without having to worry about raising funds, and we can just focus on the work that we're doing. It's not for us. Ron and I are paying our own way. We pay our own expenses. This is all just for stuff for the Ukrainian people. So please consider, if you're looking at this on your phone, take a screenshot, get someone else to scan it from another phone. You can go through this QR code straight to where you can set up that donation. It means a lot. You can put a little message in there. If you put a message to the people in Ukraine, I'll pass it on. It would mean so much. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for all the people who just asked about it, show interest in it. It means a lot. You guys mean a lot. We have a long connection with Kowanyama. Many of your kids have lived in our home as part of our family. You are our family. When we come to Kowanyama, you always make us feel like we've just come home for a visit, and you are our second home. So that will never change. Things are changing. We are going to be spending less time in Kowanyama. We are going to be spending more time in Ukraine. But it doesn't change the place that you have in our heart. It doesn't change the fact that we will always be there for our boys, for the kids that still reach out to us. Well, they're men now, and their families, and we will continue to have contact with Kowanyama and to come visit when we're back. But for now, we are helping these people who are really going through so much more, and we appreciate your care and concern for them too, and that you are joining us, whether it's through donating or just in spirit, in prayers, in love, in care, in supporting them. Thank you. Love you, Mob.